Hey guys, welcome to a spoiler discussion or a spoiler rant for Erased. I'm assuming you came here after watching my review, and if you haven't, you should go check that out so you get a better understanding of my thoughts on this series. So I'm making this video mainly to just expand on my thoughts from the review, because most of the things I didn't like about the series were major spoilers, so I had to be really vague about them. So obviously there's full stories. If you haven't read Erased yet, either go read Erased or don't, because you honestly aren't going to miss much. Before we get into full rant mode, however, I do want to talk a little bit about the things I liked that I couldn't mention in the normal review. Like I said, I thought at the beginning of this story, I thought it was fantastic in just the way it grips you from the very first few chapters. So the two main things that really gripped me at the beginning were his mother dying, which was crazy. It was out of nowhere. She figures out who the murderer was right away because she is awesome, she is a great character, and boom, just like that, she gets friggin' killed. And this of course makes Satoru go crazy. He's trying to run away from the cops, and then he gets sent back to 1988. Now, up to this point, I had actually avoided pretty much anything about the series. I knew it existed, but I had no idea what the plot was. So I actually went into this series completely blind and had no idea he got sent back in time, which friggin' blew my mind. I was so excited after the first couple chapters of this series. Alright, so, friggin' Yashiro, okay, the school teacher was the killer. Now, I suspected him from the beginning. That was mainly just because I was going crazy trying to figure out who the murderer was and if we've seen him before. I started to suspect him more, though, when they mentioned about the one boy that was murdered. Now, this boy was in Satoru's class. He looked a lot like a girl. The police thought the murderer was only targeting girls, and they just thought the murderer thought that he was a girl. And in turn, they removed everyone who knew that he was a boy from the suspect list. Not the smartest decision on the cops' part. So Satoru figured this out, and that's when I thought, hey, the teacher knows that he's a boy, so maybe he's the killer. And honestly, if they had just given us subtle hints like this, I think I would have been fine with Yashiro being the killer. But he's in the series so often, and he's always talking to Satoru. They're always talking about everything. Satoru's basically telling him all of his plans, and the way he acts sometimes, it just makes it really seem like he's the killer. And the friggin' lollipops. Oh my God, Satoru's just in this car, he opens up the little compartment, lollipops just fall everywhere. I'm like, oh shit. Now, I still didn't want to think that Yashiro was the killer at this point. I still thought they were making it way too obvious and that they were going to troll us in the end and it be someone completely different. But oh, God bless little Satoru. You idiot. You're such an idiot. All of these lollipops come out, and he doesn't suspect a thing. Like, that literally has pedophile written all over it. Sure, if Satoru was actually 10 years old, I could see it, but he's friggin' 28. There's a serial killer on the loose who is luring in children. Even if Yashiro wasn't the killer, I mean, anyone would be suspicious. Like, if I were Satoru, I'd be like, oh shit, this guy's probably the killer. When it's finally revealed, he's like, oh, but I trusted him, I would never suspect him. I'm like, you just... So I didn't think that his identity would be revealed until like the very end of the series, but it happens, I believe, in chapter 30 or 29. And he's in the car with Satoru, and then, oh, he reveals he's the villain. So then he locks Satoru in his car, pushes the car in the water, and Satoru seemingly drowns. So I was a bit disappointed at this point, because I'm like, alright, so he was the killer, that really sucks. But there's still a lot of this series left. Satoru is obviously going to survive, and now that he knows the killer, I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. He's in a coma for 15 years, and he loses his fucking memories. Oh God. Like, you know in my review how I said that it felt like they were stretching the series out? Well, this is why. He finds out who the killer is. Like, he learns everything is revealed to him, and then he forgets about it. And it's like just that detail too. Like, he remembers who he is, he remembers all of his friends because they come to visit him in the hospital. But something I really don't understand is why he also forgets about the revival. Because he could remember everything about when he was a child and who his friends were and stuff. But why couldn't he remember the other 18 years he lived in a different timeline? Because like when he goes back in time, he doesn't forget any of that. He still has all of his memories from when he was in the future. So why on earth does he forget all of that, but just remember everything else? And sure, he gets a few flashbacks of stuff that happened when he was a kid, where he was supposedly in a coma. But again, that was when he was a kid. Like, what about all of those years he was an adult? This is when I realized what Irie's purpose was. I guessed it as soon as I found out he lost his memories. He is now back to almost the present day where the series started, so Irie is obviously alive and well. I'm like, he's gonna see Irie and remember everything, isn't he? That is exactly what happens. He meets up with Irie, he's like, wait, I know you, but I don't. whoa! Then everything comes back to him. He's like, oh shit, I know who the killer is. Problem is that this literally takes like 12 chapters. Like, I commend the anime for shortening this down to like 2 episodes or something, but here, it's almost an entire third of the story. It's just him trying to remember stuff walking around with crutches. Like, I don't want to see that. I want to see crazy time travel murder mystery. And speaking of time travel, never used again, never explained, like, come on, guys. And he sort of explains it to Yoshiro at the end. He's like, yo, bruh, I've been back in time, I saw all this shit, and we found you. And Yoshiro's just like, aha, I knew it. No, come on. Come on. It doesn't even seem like he has his revival anymore, so who knows. Also, the ending wasn't all that exciting. They're, like, on a bridge, and he's trying to, like, blow up the bridge. I'm like, you're standing above water. Like, what do you expect is going to happen? You just both burn to death on the bridge? The bridge will break from the fire, and you'll fall into the water. You complete idiot. They also introduce this random girl, like, really fast out of nowhere into the story, just so she can be kidnapped or whatever and used as bait so they can catch Yoshiro. And then the series ends with everything completely happy. Yoshiro becomes a mangaka, and it's hinted that stuff happens with Airi, which is weird and creepy, and I don't like it. Maybe it's setting up for a sequel with Satoru the pedophile. Oh my god, what happened? Well, I was enjoying this so much, and then all this shit happens, and I'm like, well, I'm done. Goodbye, everybody. Good, we're done.